Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Watson Michael from Ceylon Institute of English and Leadership. And we're glad to have a new guest with us. His name is Mr. Dean Wantenaar, right? So let me give you an introduction about Dean. Dean has over 25 years of global sales and operations experience, having worked in 7 countries across 3 continents, predominantly from a health and wellness background with strong focuses on customer sales retention and experience. He now heads up sales at pioneering tech enabler Gryvy, based out of Indonesia, specialist in the acquisition, enrichment, and activation of consented first-party data, currently expanding into APAC and enabling large multinational CPG groups expand their market share and brand penetration. So Dean, welcome, and how are you doing today?
Great to be with you today, Watson. Lovely to be here, and good to meet you.
Absolutely. So why do you think leadership is important within an organization?
Okay, right out of the bat.
Yeah.
No problem, yeah. So for me, Watson, I think leadership's important because it contextualizes 3 things within an organization.
Okay.
What are those 3 things? I think those first one would be for me is direction.
Okay.
It's important that leadership allows the staff or the members of that organization to understand where they're going, where they're heading. It's very important.
True.
In terms of setting goals for the company. You know. Then the second one I would have to say would be the relevance or the why. Why are we doing this? Why are we heading in this direction, for example? Because it's and the two kind of go hand in hand. Like you're leading us into the vision, into the future with the direction. But we also need to understand why we're doing all of this and what's so important and how it will actually fit into the future.
Yes.
And then I think the third one for that one is important because it involves then what is the inspiration. So, anyone who is a leader, was a good leader, will always be an inspirer, or will be the person inspiring people within the organization. Yes. So I think if you're talking about leadership in a company, it has to be inspirational, it has to be motivational.
True.
And without the direction and without the why, it becomes quite difficult then to sort of inspire people, create the vision, create the dream. I think all of us, when we've worked under good leadership, we know what it feels like because it's an adventure, it's a journey. And it sort of seems like the future is full of hope. As to the opposite, where we've worked under very bad leadership, where it starts to become kind of very monotonous, very drudgy. There's no vision of the future, etc. And you kind of start then questioning, what am I doing here? It's important. I think those 3 things for me, direction, relevance, and inspiration, are very crucial in terms of the leadership in an organization.
Couldn't agree more, right?
Yeah.
So, what is the most challenging thing you have faced up to date?
Well, I think hands down, I would have to say that comes from my time in the fitness business during the Middle East.
Okay.
So I was running for fitness first. I was running Qatar and Bahrain for them as the area business managers for those 2 countries.
Okay.
And Qatar had a very, very well-known mall. It was probably their most famous mall.
Okay.
They ended up having a tragic, unfortunate fire in the mall, which killed 13 children and 6 adults, actually.
My goodness.
But what transpired from that was that the civil defense in Qatar shut down the mall that we were in, where we had a club, and the whole mall was shut down indefinitely because they really clamped down on a lot of the sort of businesses within Qatar. And there was a lot of eyes. Sorry, man.
Yeah.
There was a lot of eyes on the business on Qatar at that time. Obviously, also because they had won the World Cup bid.
Yes.
So there was a frenetic sort of thing about getting people compliant with fire drills and fire, and
Mm-hmm.
it went crazy. In the meantime, our business was closed in Qatar. We had no way of
Mm-hmm.
operating. Nobody could give us a time frame when it was going to
Uh-huh.
change or open or anything
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah.
the challenge was trying to keep my 30 odd staff in that particular club motivated
Wow.
every day. A lot of them, a lot of them were personal trainers, so they obviously were losing money or had no money because there was,
Yeah.
they trained on sessions and had splits and things like that.
Yes.
Eventually, we had to make the hard decision of starting to redeploy some of them. We
Okay.
lost 750 members out of the club at that time as well, because again
Mm-hmm.
we couldn't tell them when the club was going to open, when the mall
Yeah.
was even going to open.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was definitely, I'd say, a most memorable. And during all this time, I mean, we just had lots of other problems, like the staff that are deployed to Bahrain. There was lots of unrest in Bahrain at the
Mm-hmm.
time. There was people getting killed and burning because of the Shia Sunni kind of
Yeah.
conflict there.
Yeah.
And then of course we had the Qatari civil defense breathing down your neck every 5 minutes, and I mean
Mm-hmm.
literally you had to change everything, you know, within the club, and they wouldn't issue the trading licenses to
Mm-hmm.
anybody. It was just a very strange time to be in Qatar at that time, and but I think eventually it ironed itself out. It took about a year and a half for everyone to get compliant within the country.
Mm-hmm.
We were certainly not the only business that was facing those challenges.
Yes.
But yeah, a really testing time in terms of leadership, trying to keep everyone
Yeah.
focused on the future. So referring to my earlier comments about your question about why is it so important in an organization? I
Mm.
think I'd say that time really tested my leadership more than any other time that I can remember, to be honest.
Wow. I mean, very
Yeah,
interesting. Super.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So these days, not these days, I mean, this has been there, and I think it'll always continue to be there. Negativity. How can we avoid negativity?
Yeah, this is a good question. I mean, I think there's lots of different kind of answers for this one.
Yeah.
But I think let me say I've got three things that I try to distill, in this matter. The first one um, is routines and disciplines. So
Yeah.
the more you can stick to disciplines and routines within your life,
Yes.
um, I think it let's say it doesn't necessarily stop negativity, but it definitely has the ability to reduce negativity,
Yes.
because you feel comfortable within your routines and your disciplines. You know what's next. It doesn't leave room for interpretation.
Yeah.
You know what you have to do. You know how you have to do it. You're working
Yes.
within a time frame, and so it kind of quietens the mind in
Yes.
that sense. It also it just stops the sort of the ability of there to be room of assumptions,
Mm.
of assuming too much. You
Yes.
know what you have to do, you know when you have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it really helps to reduce the negativity by just
Mm.
removing those kind of potential negative pitfalls like assumptions, a
True.
wandering mind, etc. The other one I'd have to say, hands down, certainly for me, Watson,
Yes.
is consumption of opinions and news. I would say be very careful about how much you're consuming on the internet in terms of things like Twitter,
Mm.
Facebook. Um, by all means, be up to speed with the news. By all means, be up to speed with what's going on. But at
Yes.
least get say different opinions, and then just be careful about how you're consuming, where you're consuming the opinions and the reviews, etc., etc. And you'll hear this from a lot of like
Mm-hmm.
internet stars or
Yeah.
social media stars.
Yeah.
Don't read the reviews and things like that, because it can be quite damaging.
Yes.
So I would have to say that's something definitely, because the speed and the rate at which different kinds of opinions and news are coming at us all the time
Yeah.
is just ridiculous, you know.
Very true.
And then based on that, I'd say the third one would be around comparisons or comparing.
Yeah.
Um,
Very important.
Yeah, nothing that you see on social media is always 100% the truth, Um,
Yeah.
and also just within your own life, society obviously places certain pressures on all of us,
Yes.
certain expectations as to what's
Yes.
supposed to be ideal. You
Yes.
don't you don't need you don't need to take you don't need to take that for face value all the time.
Yeah.
Um, stay grounded, stay, and be careful where you comparing, how you comparing yourself to a situation or to an action or to an expected sort of image that you might even have of
Mm.
yourself, and just be careful, guard against that. Um, we're all guilty. I think we all fall into that trap. How do
Yes.
you measure up? Um, but just be careful, where you're doing that comparison, because that can sometimes lead to a lot of negativity, you know.
Absolutely. At 100%.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
So, how important is trust and teamwork on your point of view?
yeah. I think within any organization, if you want to play the long game,
Mm-hmm.
um, there's lots of rising stars that have come up in the world, but they peter out because of this
Yeah.
very thing you're asking me about. Is ultimately trust within a team and teamwork. It's what ultimately I believe causes
Yeah.
that company to win
Yeah.
in the long game. Things around would be to ensure that everybody within the organization has a voice. Stephen Covey
Mm-hmm.
refers to it in his book, The Eighth Habit. It's about everyone being able to have a voice.
Yeah.
Everyone's so diverse. We're so diverse. We all come from
True.
different backgrounds. We all have different upbringings. We all have different sets of values. I think for an organization to be successful, it's important to let everybody's voice be heard.
Agree with you.
And I think where when a company allows that, um, it's just, I don't know, it's more inclusive, and people feel more at home. They feel
Yeah.
like they're part of something bigger. Let's be honest, what's in the world is a
Yeah.
it's a big, bad, beautiful, ugly place sometimes, with lots of just different people, different religions, different races.
Yeah.
We have to coexist, and we all have to
Correct.
be able to have a voice. Otherwise it's never going to work.
100%.
And then
Yeah.
from that, I would say that just, very important is communication and dialogue, and being able to, be very open in the communication with each other. Um, like no hidden agendas, no gossiping. Um,
Yeah.
so within the communication, there would also have to be a very good, what I call an honest feedback loop. So
Yes.
it's a feedback loop that is constant, that people do it often. It's constructive. We by no means is anyone perfect. Everybody's always got an improvement they need to
Mm.
make. Everyone doesn't always make the perfect decision within a company. So
Yeah.
it's important that there's that kind of feedback. Um, and then being able to feel comfortable, even when you are making mistakes. And
Yeah.
in a sense, we hear the term failing forward,
Correct.
but people need to have feedback. And I mean, I like to liken it to something like, for example, if your wife or your husband is at home and
Yeah.
you're about to leave the house for a very important meeting, and you spilled some breakfast on your shirt,
Yeah.
surely they will not let you go to that meeting with that stain, or that, they
Mm.
equally don't want you to be embarrassed. And I think that's
Yeah.
that's in a sense how we should be at work with each other. It's in a
Yeah.
loving, constructive manner. People get that feedback, and they can grow, and they feel safe, and they feel comfortable.
Yeah.
um and then I'd have to say the fourth thing within that is guarding heavily against what I call a tribal mentality, or a type of like a clique mentality,
Uh-huh.
where 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 people start to form little tribes within the
Yeah.
company, and then there's a us versus them mentality which starts to develop. This starts to get a bit dangerous, and obviously it opens up things for gossip, and
Yeah.
and I mean, every department is important. Even if you're the janitor, you are very important in the organization, even if you're cleaning the toilets or the change rooms,
Yeah.
because everybody wants surely to go into the bathroom that's clean and everything's functioning okay. So that person is just as important as the managing director, in my opinion. And everyone has their part to play. So, but you've got to eliminate that tribal sort of clique mentality within a company. Otherwise, it starts to become very dangerous, I think.
Totally, I agree with you. So titles are just names, right? End of the day, we do something great will happen. So a final thing for all our viewers who want to chase their dreams, what is your message?
Sorry, I missed that a little bit.
Sure. So our final question for all the people who want to chase their dreams, who seek motivation, what is your message to them?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question, especially for someone like me who is a bit of a dreamer.
Okay. I'm also a dreamer, right? So it's hard work, but yeah.
Yeah, so for the advice I try to give myself, because man, I've had a lot of dreams. Of course, a dream without action is just gonna stay a dream. It's
Yeah.
not a functional thing.
Yeah.
So you can sit and dream all day, but you have to take some action at some time.
Correct.
So maybe on that one, Watson, I'd say like try to find what it is out of all the dreams, because I think everyone has a lot of dreams. Is what's your purpose in that?
Yeah.
What's the purpose of or the dream that kind of really sticks out to you that you
Yeah.
feel you would love to do for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
I think, of course, a lot of us, we all have dreams, but we kind of have to settle for the routine of corporate and making money and feeding families and things like that.
Yeah.
You know, and once you're in that comfort zone, it becomes extremely difficult to move out of that comfort zone.
Correct.
Where we know the growth lies at the end of the day, that's where all the growth is outside the comfort zone. So it's a tough one, but I
Yeah.
would say, yeah, if you're gonna dream, make sure at least you've got an action plan
Yeah.
that you want to activate the dream at some point.
Correct.
Um, not every dream is going to come true.
True.
If it's not possible, it's just not possible.
Yes.
And then just like, yeah, I think just be well, there's this, often they say this in the sales game, they say, I'm just being realistic.
Yeah.
Some of the best dreamers, they honestly don't appear as if they're being realistic sometimes.
Yeah. True.
But within that, like the Elon Musks of the world, and that you're thinking like, this guy, I suppose when he talks at some of the meetings, that imagine the staff are like, what is this guy on about? He's like, that we can never do that. That's impossible. That's not going to happen. Look, that will come up when you dream a lot. I'm just being realistic, they say to yourself.
Correct.
Well, that's the joy and the beauty of dreaming, is sometimes it's not always realistic. It's bold, it's hairy, it's audacious, it's a crazy dream,
Yeah.
And men and women across the world over the centuries have pulled it off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't always tell everybody your dream too, because you'll see some people will crush that dream very quickly.
Yeah.
And be careful who you want to share that to. Sometimes I would say to some people, be careful who you share the dream with.
Correct.
Apart from someone who might steal your idea or your plan, but just be careful. There's the right people to share the dream with, and sometimes the wrong people, and they want to crush your dream.
Absolutely. So wise words from Dean, right? Very wise words. So for all those watching, you heard Dean, and just go ahead and connect with us on LinkedIn, where we're there. And Dean, thank you very much for taking your valuable time and doing this podcast with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, Watson. It was an absolute pleasure.
Absolute honor as well.
Thank you very much.